Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Northwest Georgia Cryptics. I am Rick Weaver, and I will be your host tonight. Blake Duckworth, my co-host, is uh, out due to some mechanical problems with his car, so I'll be doing this little short segment myself. But tonight's show is very simple. One main question: is Sasquatch real? And once you saw this tonight, I want you, ladies and gentlemen, to sit back and decide for yourself if the hairy man is real or just a figment of everyone's imagination. Has everyone that has seen the creature known as Sasquatch over the years, was it all mistaken identities? Was it all objects or other creatures? These are questions to ponder while you think, is Sasquatch real? The Patterson-Gimlin film, although shot over 50 years ago, is still, until this day, one of the most hotly debated pieces of film ever generated. On October I'm sorry folks for this. On October 20th, 1967, while riding their horses into the vast forest near Bluff Creek, California, Roger Patterson nor his riding partner Bob Gimlin had any idea that before that day was through, their lives, as they knew them, would change forever. The short 59-second film clip taken by Roger Patterson using a rented movie camera is one of what believed by most within the cryptic world to be the over a half century ago. No one has ever been able to prove it to be a fake. Many have come forward over the years and claimed to have been the ones wearing a monkey suit while helping Patterson pull off an elaborate hoax, thus making the film one of the most examined pieces of evidence pertaining to the existence of a large hominoid right here in the United States. Although both Patterson and Gimlin thought they had captured definitive proof of the creature known by many Native American tribes as Sasquatch. When presented the film, most mainstream scientists of the time rebuked its authenticity. It wasn't until Dr. Grover Krantz, anthropologist and cryptozoologist, agreed to view the film that any validity was given to it. Dr. Krantz shocked the mainstream world of scientific minds when he concluded that Patty, as the figure depicted in Roger Patterson's film had been dubbed, was an authentic yet undiscovered species of primate. Dr. Krantz's findings turning most in the scientific community against him. The man, however, was a testament to his own beliefs and continued his research in the field of Bigfoot studies until his death in 2002. Excuse me. Even today, with depictions of Bigfoot posted on every street corner, there are those who still believe that Sasquatch is and has always been nothing more than a childhood fable. Tonight, you, our viewers, will be the judge. Once you have viewed tonight's content, it will be up to each of you to describe to decide for yourselves, is Sasquatch a serving nothing more than the rest of us the freedom to live in peace with nature and his surroundings. Now I ask each of you, especially with the pandemic and all that we've had going on, is that too much to ask? Is it too much to ask that we let these great creatures live out their lives in the land that they call home? For some reason, it seems to me that ever since the white man came to the shores of the United States of America, there's always been death and destruction that followed. We came over here searching for a better life. With millions and millions of acres of land for us to explore. But in doing so, basic people, now once proud warriors, or the descendants of once proud warriors, live not free on the plains, try to chase the buffalo, to go and do as he wants. No, he's stuck in what the white man's giving in a little parcel of land, and basically for years and years that's all it was. Um, I know that now with the gambling casinos and the new laws on those, and the Indian reservations being able to run these things, that life for most of them has picked up, and drastically. But it's just like with Sasquatch. With Sasquatch, with all our buildings, all our construction, building new high rises, office uh, buildings. It's just wiping the story out. That's the reason that from the 1930s to uh, so those creatures have tripled or quadrupled. If we wipe out their territory, where else have they got to go? With the so-called industrial age, and keep building and keep pushing and keep encroaching. Uh, these things one morning, you go out and they've been sitting in your old car, it's been on blocks for 20 years. done made a home. Brush pile piled up around it. But yet these people that don't believe. There are people out there that if one went in their house, sit down in the recliner next to them, throw his arm around them, they'd still somehow think it was fake. Yeah, I've been doing this for over 30 years. I've been searching out the mysteries of Sasquatch. And it is. It's a continuing mystery. I guess I've always loved one. Is the reason I do it. But, just being in the woods, although I've been laid up for the last 3 or 4 months due to a shoulder injury, um, and been able to do anything, and I really miss it. Before that, I was getting out at least a couple of times a month, doing camp outs, exploring, doing expeditions. Uh, then a couple of times a month or a couple of times a week out into the forest, doing what I call day walks, um, looking for any sign, any evidence that the creatures are in an area, a given area. We've got one area down at Altoona Lake that we visit quite often. Let's see if I can find a pic of it here. There we go. Yes, that's the old Macedonia Cemetery down in Bartow County. It's about 2.5 to 3 miles off the main road. Um, the old cemetery is secluded. You can't tell in the pic, but the back side and the right side of the property, if you're facing the film or facing the pic, is encompassed by Lake Altoona, or the waters of Lake Altoona, uh, which is really unusual. The evidence that what we've actually had happened to us. Excuse me, I don't know why it's hoarse, but we were down there. It all started here in the winter of 2011. Ladies and gentlemen, I am so sorry. I'm actually having technical difficulties with my internet. I had a guy said that my internet card in the computer tower itself was going out on me, so I've got to check tomorrow and order one of those. Try to get everything back up to par. Uh, but I'd just like to thank everybody that's tuned in, everybody that'll tune in tonight, everybody that watches us in the future. I hope you enjoy it. And like I said, it's just a little walk through and me just discussing, having a good time discussing Sasquatch. As I said, this pic here uh, This all started for Blake and I back in 2011. We were actually down here doing a ghost hunt, doing paranormal, and a couple of nights before we'd been down here and got some real strong EVPs, some strange video recordings doing the paranormal. And then the night that all this happened, we went back to do another investigation, and Blake's dad, John Duckworth, was along, and we were all standing about middle ways of the cemetery under one of the big cedar trees, and we were standing there talking, and all of a sudden, a rock the size of a basketball came down through the tree limbs and landed between our feet. We all, kind of looked at one another and stood there, and here come another, and then another one. So we did like all cowards. We cut out and run back across the cemetery up to the old standing there and trying to catch our breaths, and all of a sudden we heard a big popping racket, and then like just dead silence for a couple of seconds, and then we heard something swish the air, and boom, the ground kind of shook, uh, and what we could figure out, either a tree had snapped and fallen to the ground, uh, because it was not the racket was not like someone cutting a tree or a tree being uprooted and hitting. It was like a loud snap, and then maybe just a quick whooshing racket, and maybe 3 seconds later, you actually felt the impact. So it was very strange. But then we began to start experiencing howls, tree knocks, um, eye shines. Uh, it all ending about 11 weeks later, with us doing investigations a couple of nights a week. Blake Duckworth and a friend of his from Dalton actually went down on Friday night. Uh, I'd had to work the next morning and couldn't go, so they had went down, and about 7 o'clock in the morning, Blake calls me and tells me that he and his friend are actually standing looking at a Sasquatch. And I get all excited when we stand there, and we talk for a couple of minutes, and it ends up with he and his friend actually catching sight of like a small family unit, a father, a mother, and a young juvenile. Um, they actually observed these creatures for maybe a minute and a half before the creatures, I guess, realized that they were there. But Blake said these things, once they realized that they had company, they uh, grabbed the little one up, and they took about 3 or 4 steps into the woods, and they were gone. As with either these creatures are some of the best uh, entities that I know of at camouflage, or it's it kind of leads a man to believe that there may be something with this paranormal connection with Sasquatch. I don't know. I've never had it. I've never experienced it. I saw a Sasquatch in 1981, July the 5th. Um, a friend of mine and I were floating Talking Rock Creek small embodiment of water actually runs into the lower lake at Carter's, at the big lake at Carter's, float fishing it. And we've been floating probably for about a half a day, and we got down below the bluff. There's a waterfall that's about, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 foot high, and pretty rough waterfall. But anyway, we came down in a big raft, and we shot the waterfall. And after me thinking we were going to sink there for a second, we bounced back out and started into a big long eddy. And I don't know, out about 40 yards, maybe 60 yards from where I first saw it was something at the creek. And it was like hunched over like a man would do. And when I first saw it, I thought it was a bear. But then I thought, no, bears don't bend over on their hind legs like that. And we got on down to where we were probably 25 yards from this thing. It raises up. And instead of two bear paws coming up out of the water, it was like two hands with hair that come down to the back knuckles. And this just blew my mind, because this thing had fingers and disposable thumbs like we have. And it was covered in a darkish uh, brown black hair. There's probably about 3 inches long, um, maybe 4, but it was all dirty and matty. And the face I really can't describe, other than I could tell that it had a huge uh, ridge, brow ridge. Um, but this thing, once it saw us, because all of this elapsed in probably 15, 20 seconds. Uh, this thing turned, bolted to its left, and went back into thick cover. And that's the last time I saw it. The guy that I was with, he kind of played it off as it being a black bear, um, which, I've hunted since I was 7 years old. And this thing was not a black bear. I've sat on tree stands and watched mama bears and baby bears, watched old daddy bears um, for hours on end. And, got to study their habits, got to study their movements. And this that I saw that morning or that afternoon, um, it was not a bear. Um, but that, ladies and gentlemen, is what got me starting to question whether there was something out there or not. And for the last 30 years, footprints, tracks, tree structures, uh, everything we thought of. But only one time other than the time at the cemetery, have I actually been up within, I'd say, 20 yards of these things. Um, we were up on Blood Mountain, or up on Big Frog Mountain one night. This was God back in the early 80s. A couple of friends of mine that I worked with at the time had told me of a place up there where they had been run out of camp the previous hunting season by a large bear, is what they said it was. Uh, but then Melvin, one of the brothers, told me that later that he hadn't said anything to his younger brother about it, but he told me that it was not a bear. He didn't say what it was, but he did say it was not a bear. He said it looked more like an ape to him. That's all he ever said. So, being long-headed, I of course went up to check it out. Uh, Ended up actually getting one of my coon dogs that I took with me that was a very good little dog. And, ended up getting her killed that night. But whatever this was, I never did see it other than just the lower part of its legs, and it wasn't a bear. Not the way it was built, not the way it was walking. It was not a bear. Um, but these things are out there. Um, and in my opinion, they are dangerous. People say that, oh, they're big, lovable teddy bears. All they do is want to just come and watch what you're doing. They're curious. Well, yeah, they're curious to a point. But like all wild animals, their curiosity can develop into something more. And when it does, if you're in that right place at the right time, then you could get hurt. So please, folks, whatever you do not try to there we go. Sorry about that. No, if you ever encounter one of these things, do not try to approach them. The best advice I turn and slow or get out of there as quickly and as quietly as you can. I've talked to hundreds of people over the last few months that have actually had encounters with these things, uh, and some of them were just mundane encounters where it was like child's play. But then I've talked to folks that have actually had their campers ripped apart, had their tents ripped apart with them. Um, One guy I know told him a priest that I was co-host on that he actually had one set on his tent. When these things approach you like that, there's, in my opinion, no good going to come out of it. It's going to end badly. for either you or the Sasquatch. And believe me, the Sasquatch is a lot. So if you encounter one of these things. Well, folks, uh, that's about all I've got tonight. Um, Please, if you don't care, um, show us a little generosity. Lord knows we need it. But hit that subscribe button. If you like the content, hit it. Hit like. That's how YouTube knows that we're doing a good job. The Rick Weavers, the Northwest Georgia Cryptics. Uh, all you folks, please stay safe. Um, and folks, I know it's an inconvenience, but please, if you're out in public, wear those masks. Thank you, and good night. Hello?